Hello, I'm Lydia, and you're listening to Lens from the Fens. Hi again everyone, welcome back to Lens from the Fens with me, Lydia. If any of you listeners are based in the UK, you'd be well aware of Storm Christoph, which has arrived on our land. It's brought an awful lot of rain, there's really strong winds, especially in like northern England and the Welsh landscape. So I hope that you are all okay, and hopefully you'll be receiving the help that you need either for your home or your business. So again, as you all know, we are in a lockdown in the UK, and it's really been affecting my way of doing my photography. I have been doing very local walks, just up the road, down the main road, mainly at night time, and obviously in terms of where else I can go, been quite anxious as to how far I can go, whether 5 minutes up the road is local or not. So I've taken the option of sticking very close to home and just seeing wildlife in my garden or across the fields near where I go to the local shop, etc. And there is actually a local patch at the top of my street which comes off farmland and is like a really small wooded area. So I'm very tempted to go and look at that in the very near future, because I have a hunch that the tawny owls that I've heard near my garden the past few weeks, I have a strong feeling that they actually come from that wooded area. So that is somewhere I could potentially look at for doing another either walk, talk and shoot, or a sit, talk and shoot. Which leads me on to what this episode's about. As you may all be aware, I received a hide for Christmas, and I thought, means I'm restricted to going out to different places, I thought I would take this opportunity to test out the hide in my back garden. So I'll go into the details of the hide further along in the episode, but the brand is Bushwear, and they specialise in all different types of portable hides and camouflage netting, etc. It's most likely will be a brand that I'll return to, especially if I want to get more accessories to go over my hide, whether that be proper folding seats, or if they have any extra sort of waterproofing, if I want to put it over myself or over the hide. So it's a brand I can recommend, as you'll hear later on when I talk about the hide itself. But yeah, it means it was quite a nice, calm, sunny day. I thought I'd just take it outside, I'll get it set up and just see what wildlife will come into my garden. So I might as well get straight into it, and I hope you all enjoy this segment. I'm in my garden this morning. As you all well know, there's tighter restrictions in place. So in terms of where I can go with my camera, it's quite questionable. I won't go into any more detail because I explain it on my last episode. And I just thought, well, what else can I do with my camera? So I have set up my hide. This is what I received at Christmas from my fiance. And it's about 6 foot tall, I think. It's got one door and it's got 3 windows, which are all like zip locked. You might hear it rustling a bit, that's because there's a little bit of wind coming through the garden. But I've set it up about 3/4 of the way down my garden. It's a fairly long garden, which is handy, especially we've got a bit of, not construction work, but we're re-landscaping basically, so there's a lot of space to work with. And at the end of my garden, we have an apple tree and a cobnut tree. So that's where my camera is aimed at, and we got a feeder behind the apple tree attached to the fence. So we get, or what I've seen recently, house sparrows, there's been wood pigeons down there, blackbirds. There's been a pair of chaffinches in the last day, which is great, and then great tits, blue tits and goldfinches. So there's definitely a variety at the end of the garden. So I've set up sort of not directly in front of the tree but to the side of it, and it's also in line with the hedgerow, the large hedgerow that goes along the side of the garden, and that's where all the house sparrows are currently residing, along with robins as well. Plenty of sightings of robins as well recently. So there's definitely a lot here, and I just thought what a better way to test out my hive than doing it in my back garden. So that's where I'm at this morning. It's about, I think it's just coming up to 11, quarter to 11. The sun's still quite low with it being winter, so there isn't any direct sunlight on the tree at the minute, but it's nicely lit all the way around. And yeah, I'm just going to see what comes around. As I set the hide up, I did hear the great tits calling, and you could probably hear the house sparrows calling to each other as well. They're probably thinking, what is in our patch? But it'll obviously be something new to them, so I'm not expecting them to come out right away. But I have had birds stick around when I've been in the garden, whether that was working on re-landscaping or planting trees or planting flowers. So they're obviously aware, but they're not so much scarpering. They're quite used to our presence. So it could go either way, but I think in terms of just testing out the hide and seeing how sturdy it is, and it's obviously not raining today, so I can't test out the waterproofing, but I mean, for what it is, it's nice and spacious. I'm on like a 3-legged seat at the minute. I've got my Canon and Sigma up on a tripod at the minute. I've got some water and I've got some tea. So I think just while I'm waiting for stuff to come around, I'm going to grab my flask and I'll help myself to a cup of tea, and we'll obviously see what comes around in the next... Well, I'm planning to be out here for at least an hour, just so they're used to this being around, but yeah, we'll just see what happens. So while I've just been pouring myself some tea, the great has actually been out on the feeder behind the tree, so they're obviously aware that there's something different in their landscape, but it's still quite good that they're not too afraid to come out for food. So yeah, I've got my viewfinder on some of the branches on the tree in front, because I've seen them often perch on there when there's like multiple birds. And there's just a bird. Yeah, the great tit's just come out again. I think there's a pair of them. They're coming out from the hedge. Yeah, there's a second. And in the distance, it looks like I could see a red kite, which is really nice. They often come over the house multiple times of the day. Often quite low as well, because obviously looking in people's gardens for, well, just any sort of meal. They often eat carrion, so if there's anything on the field that's perished or near the main road up from the house, then they'll hunt over that quite frequently. Obviously, with it being a Sunday, there's quite a few neighbours doing odd jobs around the house and in the garden, so you'll probably hear people cutting grass or doing up stuff. So, but you'll always end up hearing some bird calls, without a doubt. Some pigeons flying overhead by the looks of it. And the red kite's more visible now. It's coming across the field towards the end of the garden. Oh, yeah, the tea's good. A good choice on bringing tea out. It's not terribly cold. I think it's about 7 degrees. And because I'm not properly pegged down, there's obviously still a bit of wind coming through, and I've got the window open. But in terms of like initial shelter, it's actually doing a good job. So Robin's come out now. He's a bit in the shade, but he's showing quite nicely. I think the blue tit's gone back into the hedge. The robin's looking around. Great tit's out on the feeder again. Robin's now up on the fence. Great tits come down as well. So they're definitely coming out now. Which is good because it means that they're not totally unsure with my presence, or the hide's presence. The red kite's back out over the field again. I'm just going to have some more tea. And Jack's gone over the field as well. That's another common sighting over my house because a lot of the houses down my street are they got proper fireplaces and chimneys, so the jackdaws tend to build their nests in them, which isn't ideal. But they'll all roost together in the morning, you'll hear them calling out, and then they'll do the same again in the evening when they come back from wherever they've been. So yeah, they're definitely a regular sight, and they've been to my feeder a couple of times as well. There's been about 4 or 5 individuals that came at once yesterday. Oh, there is, that looks like a wren on the floor. It's a dunnock. And Robin's back up on the fence as well, by looks. Dunnock's gone back under the hedge now. And Robin's out on the fence. It's gone into... It's on the feeder now. There's one of the resident blackbirds. I think what I'm going to do, rather than constantly moving around, I'm going to try and put it on an area on the tree where they'll most likely land, but also that it's not getting like the fence or anything like that. So I'm just focusing up on a branch in the foreground. Just going to do a manual override on it because it's picking up something in the background. I'll do it to there. There we go. That should stay. Yep. The robin's back now. But yeah, rather than constantly moving around, I'm going to see if one of the birds will actually go onto an area that I quite like for them to perch on. Because otherwise, if I'm constantly moving, then I'm not going to get the lighting right or anything like that. So I'm just trying to learn to be a bit more patient and not constantly move the camera around, because after a while the 150-600 can be quite heavy. So yeah, I'm just trying to learn to allow nature to come to you and not always just trying to get a picture of whatever's in the foreground, whatever's in the background. I'd rather want to actually plan out. There's the jackdaws. They're all flying off for food by the looks. And this is where the hide comes in handy, because it's just given me that time to get myself settled, get my camera set up, have my tea. Yeah, it's just I still enjoy obviously walking, but I've said this many times before, I often just point and shoot, and yeah, it's just something I want to do differently. I think you hear some rooks going over as well. They're landing on the field behind. the field behind's quite flooded now, so a lot of it's a bit waterlogged, and that'll be bringing up all sorts of bits of food for them. So they'll be picking away behind the fence line, which I can't see. So, but yeah, just to have that time to plan out where you want your wildlife to be, or get in a position where you'll most likely get them quite close. It's nice to be able to plan that out. So when I go out for walks, I'm obviously not expecting to find anything in particular unless there's been a recent sighting and I want to go find it. And a lot of the time it's just relying on a bit of fate and luck that you'll see what you want to see, and then something else will come along and you're thinking, oh, I've got to get that picture, and there's just no planning in it, and that's what I lack. So doing this is actually doing me good, because I can look at the scene around me and I think, right, if a bird or a mammal presented itself here, that would be the picture I want, rather than just thinking there's that species, I've got to get a record picture, so to speak. So just while I'm in the hide at the minute, I thought I'd just tell you the specs of it really. So it's by Bushware, and it is called the TP hide. It basically speaks for itself, so it's a pop-up, and it's got 4 steady legs or corners, and it will basically pop out when you get it out of it's basically a rucksack. It comes with straps to go over both shoulders, so it's easy to sort of carry with you. And yeah, when it pops up, it comes up to about 6 foot tall, and it's got camouflage on the outside, and then the edges are distorted, so there's camouflage leafing around the edge of the whole of the tent. You can definitely fit 2 people in here. I mean, I'm sort of sat in the middle, but I've got plenty of space to my right still where the door is, so it could definitely do well for 2 people. So if you're a couple who do either bird watching or photography together, then I'll definitely recommend it for 2. And there's still space to put your camera bag. I've got my tea flask down here as well, and definitely, like, if you've got just 2 foldable deck chairs, you can definitely fit them in here. Like I said, it's not raining today, so I have yet to see what the waterproofing's like, but from the texture of it, it does feel as though it can definitely just, when the raindrops land on it, it can definitely roll off. And it comes with tent pegs, so it can be put down in the ground. It doesn't have a floor, just so you're aware. So if you do want to put down any tarp or waterproof layering underneath, then you're more than welcome to do that. But even with that, if you get to a place and it's already dry, and then it rains later, at least the ground that the tent's over, it will remain dry. Fingers crossed. But yeah, the name again, it's Bushware, and it's the TP hide, which is it's the letters TP. So yeah, you can always look at the name. I'm sure they have a variety of other types of hides, but it's nice that I actually have my own now. I've been into buildings of hides rather than so much like hide tents. It's been a few years since I was in a makeshift hide when I was doing some field work with a fellow local photographer, where he set up a hide, like ladder height, off the ground, looking directly towards a nest that was in a tree, and natural hides as well. I've often tried to crouch down in amongst bushes or around trees where my silhouette's sort of broken up, and that's really nice. I managed to get some nice photos from doing that. So to have my own hide now, I'm sort of hoping that it could be my travel along companion, I guess. Obviously, depending on where this year goes, I've debated whether to do a couple of solo weekends away, purely wildlife based. So I almost like to take the hide with me if I'm in wooded area and I don't want my silhouette fully exposed, then I can always take it there. So yeah, I'm liking it so far. It definitely keeps most of the wind out. Obviously I've got a window open, so it does let a bit of cold in, but I'm all wrapped up. I've got my layers on and I've got, as I said, a tea. So yeah, I'm really liking it so far, and I think for anyone who wants to have a look at hides themselves and use it in their garden or on their local patch, then yeah, I'd recommend looking up bushwear. So I just heard, I think, a great tit call out. It seems to have gone a bit quiet again, so yeah, I'll give it a few more moments and we'll see what happens. So after a while from that last talk I did, it turned very quiet. A lot of the birds had either moved on or they just weren't wanting to come out to feed. So I packed my hide away. With it being a pop-up tent, it was a bit of a fiasco to get it back down, but that's with any pop-up tent, as a lot of people will be familiar with. So I did get it down eventually, and it would just be a case of practicing a bit more, because if I do want to take it out on my own, I'll have to be confident enough to put it away myself. So I was going to go a bit more in detail about my camera setup in terms of the functions that I've used in the past and ones that I haven't really used but I want to use more of. But I think I'm going to save that for my next episode because this is a full episode in itself, really. So just a little teaser of what I will be talking about. Having a bit more time at home has really helped me to think about how I want to use my camera in the future to get the pictures I want. So I've spent my spare time going all through my camera, looking at all the functions it has, all the settings that could help me in achieving my pictures. So I'll save that for my next episode, because I'll go a bit more in depth in terms of the photography specs, and I know I've had a few requests from people asking about what my camera setup is, rather than just telling you what the model is. So yeah, I'll save that all for next time. Thank you all again for listening. I hope you enjoyed this little lockdown episode, and I will speak to you all again very soon. Goodbye. My podcast cover shows my own image created using Canva. The theme music is provided by Purple Planet Music. Check out their royalty-free music at purple-planet.com.